Hi there, I'm Luke from IAM.
And I'm Andy from IAM.
And today we're going to demystify the compliance aspect of what is School Estates Management Standard Tier 3. What does good actually look like in estates management? Now, I would argue that Tier 3 is a level that schools need to get to, but I also think that Tier 1 and Tier 2 aren't too bad as well. I think you probably need a system in place for Tier 2. You may not need a system in place for Tier 1, it's just the sort of the baseline. But I would say that I would use one of your best statements that I've heard you say before, and whether you want to say that, whether you want to sort of bring it out to the fore as well. But I think, and I agree with you, that good estates management is boring.
Yeah.
In the most best possible way.
Absolutely. And boring just means that things are just kind of repetitive and it just happens. There's no excitement in things. And not having excitement in your estates management is actually a really good thing, because if it's boring, it means it's running efficiently. There's very little you need to do with it. So although compliance can be fun, also estates management should definitely be boring.
I agree with you. I think what people might have the few sort of misinterpretations in their mind about what maybe level 3 in terms of the School Estates Management Standards looks like. What it's not is nice new shiny painted walls and a tidy corridor. And it's not things like we call them heroes, don't we? One sort of hero caretaker site manager that holds everything together. That is not great estates management. I don't think that's great estates management at all. I think you cannot have any kind of sort of performance without having any evidence. And I think the important thing is the evidence and making sure that everything is documented strategically, that you've got things like your current actions are all being tracked in terms of your current compliance actions are all being tracked, that PPMs are all done, actions that come off the back of that as well have all been done. You've got, even though you can't do something, you have fully funded plans to do things in the future. What's in the next 3 years, what's in the next 5 years. And there is a clear kind of accountability and real governance around what it's going to take to get that estate into a really sharp, solid place. And I think that the less surprises that are on the horizon for any kind of estates manager, the better. When progress is basically when a process is such that nothing goes wrong. I know that's never the case, mind, but nothing goes wrong. And I think that building generates enough sort of data to be able for you to plan that. And I think that you need to be able to plan that yourself, and understand what it's going to take to obviously to get to that sort of point in time is a journey that you obviously need to go on. But I think just staying calm under pressure. Yeah. Thinking calm under pressure, teacup, a great thing that Clive Woodward said, thinking calm under pressure. I think that is, I think that's the important part of having a good level of level 3 in estates management.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think surprise is the key word there. If you put your car in for an MOT, you're not surprised if it fails. You don't want it to fail, but you're not surprised. And the reason you're not surprised is because you know your car. You know how old it is. You know all the little knocks and the bumps and the noises it's been making. So expand that to your estate. If you know your estate, if you've got, as I said in another podcast, if you've got a 1971 installed boiler in your school that's coming up for 50 years old, then at some point that's going to go. Don't be surprised when it is. What you can do is you can head off that actually failing by making sure that you preempt things. Keeping on top of your PPMs, you have a standard system there. We do a check. There's something wrong with a particular aspect of that. We fix that particular aspect and we've got all the paperwork, electronic paperwork, but we've got all the evidence supporting what we've done with that particular thing. And as you've said on many podcasts now, it's all about data analysis and being able to work out exactly where you want to go with that.
And it's also, like I said, if you do get that right, if you get that element of it right, you're also going to factor the right things around the budget for it as well. So if something like that does go wrong, you're going to forecast, you're going to know that in 5 years, that's not going to last another 5 years. So I'm going to go and get a quote now to go and get it replaced. And actually, when we go back to the boiler scenario, I think that good estates management as well, just generally good estates management, having the foresight to predict that something's going to go wrong and actually doing the exercise around a feasibility study, I think that's great estate management. I think that's saying my boiler is going to pack up in 3 years' time. My boiler is going to be £25,000 to replace. I'm going to do a feasibility study to show that if I get that replaced sooner and it's less hassle because I'm in control of when that thing's going to break down, not the boiler deciding it's going to give up in the midst of the winter sort of period when I need it at most. I'm in control of that. I'm going to do a feasibility study where I'm going to go and get the right funding from the right place, or I'm going to commit to the right cost, but I'm going to save it over that 3-year period as well, because I'm going to get a really, really, really efficient boiler. I'm going to do something that's going to offset that cost, that's going to be repaid in 3 years. And I will go and find the money. And that means that we're still keeping calm because we're addressing something long before it actually becomes a problem. And I think that's the strategy. That's the strategy that sort of maybe is what I would say is great estates management. And I think that maybe if you're at the level 3, when you've got the likes of digital twin models on there as well, you can start predicting what areas of the school that you could potentially close down and understand where your budgets are obviously split intelligently as well. I think there's an argument there to say that that's probably what good looks like. So you have a very well-run estate, and if you've got a very well-run estate, typically the person running that estate is going to be the likes of an Andy Ball, where you've thought about everything 25 years in advance and you've done the necessary planning for it. But the necessary planning also becomes a bit more of a strategic exercise around how do I make this estate now not a cost centre, that it is an asset again. Yeah. You do that by actually having all of the data in place so that you've got clear sort of accountability for your future plans that you've got, and you can justify them to anybody that comes along and asks.
And you also need to think about if things do turn into an emergency, for example, say the boiler fails, we haven't preempted the fact, we've kept it going, it fails, that is going to have an impact on other things that are going on as well. So if I preempted that and over a 3-year period I've managed to get a new boiler in before this one actually dies, if the boiler does die, it's now taking me away to sort the boiler out because it's now a higher priority. I've got the other members of the site team going around trying to put in some heating system to keep the school nice and warm. And all the stuff that we were doing in that time is now backslipped.
And that needs to be factored into that sort of future cost plans. The number of hours that you're going to commit for the next 3 years for the stuff that sit on the side of these issues, going around and getting fan heaters to go and sit in classrooms that need to be kept warm, etc. That's where you sort of surpass where you need to be with level 3, I think, on the school estates management standards.
Yeah.
I think it's important as well, just to sort of I suppose just a bit of a wrap up, I suppose, is to think of it as well along the lines of there is an element of a system maturity that you've got in if you want to hit level 3. It's not, we're not saying sort of go and hit a sort of glamour spot there, or it's not perfection. What you're actually trying to do is create a system that works harmoniously and calmly without the need of hero intervention week in, week out, over and over again. I think that in itself is school estates management standards level 3. Personally, I think that's where it is. I think that and I think that every school, certainly every school I've spoken to, has got the enthusiasm to get there, and I think they can achieve that as well.
Yeah, and I think if you've got a good system, a good process in place, it becomes routine, it becomes boring, but it becomes efficient, and that's the main thing. And people then they don't come under stress because things are going wrong. Everything works according to plan, and you have a lot more time. And time is the one thing that people working in schools don't have.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Great conversation, Andre.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And we will see everybody on the next episode. Take care.
Take care all.